As the 15th century DR draws to a close, Zekali, a cleric of Shar, Noroxis, a green dragonborn fighter, and Ziggurat, a bronze arcane ranger, find themselves embarked on a journey. They adventure amidst the waters surrounding the Stormwreck Isles, a stretch of sea shrouded in mystery and danger. In the dim light of the fading second sun above the city of Elturel, a foreboding omen looms on the horizon. A gaping chasm, stretching some 30 feet wide, torn open in the fabric of reality beneath their modest vessel. As the abyss beckons with its infinite depths, panic grips the hearts of the adventurers. Zekali, the pious cleric, turns to her prayers, seeking solace and divine intervention in the face of impending doom. Noroxis, fueled by instinct and perhaps a touch of madness, seeks to defy the abyss, his desperate attempt to leap from the boat thwarted only by the relentless pull of Umberlee's embrace, the sea goddess's domain asserting its dominance over the hapless fighter. Amidst the chaos, Ziggurat, the ranger, remains stoic, his silence masking a resolve tempered by years of traversing of the world. Together they plummet into the yawning abyss, the sensation of weightlessness enveloping them as darkness consumes their senses, their fate hanging in the unknown depths of the abyssal realm. As the weightless sensation dissipates, Zekali's ominous presence lingers, casting a shadow over the newly arrived scene. A gentle sea breeze brushes against their skin, offering a stark contrast to the darkness of the abyss they had just escaped. With senses alert, the party takes in their surroundings. A decapitated statue of Umberlee, the dense foliage of an unfamiliar forest, and the absence of their cleric companion. Noroxis, still grappling with the disorientation of their abrupt transition, struggles to regain his bearings, while Ziggurat's keen ranger instincts are stirred by the peculiar sensation of being enclosed within a globe, his favored terrain providing him with an unsettling awareness of their confined surroundings. As they begin to piece together their situation, a croaking sound breaks the silence, drawing their attention to a grunge, a small amphibious creature clad in heavy armor, gesturing urgently from the foot of a nearby bridge. Following its gaze, the party spots a slender, pale figure standing about 80 feet away, amidst the wreckage of a ransacked merchant's cart. In one hand, the figure grips a rusted and bloodied longsword, while the other clutches a macabre trophy, a severed limb torn from one of the fallen. A trail of bodies marks the figure's path, a grim testament. Noroxis and Ziggurat exchange wary glances, silently communicating their readiness. Assessing the situation, they prepare to face the adversary. Noroxis, the eldritch knight, feels the gears of his intellect click into place as clarity washes over him. He recalls the nature of the Grung, a hierarchical society rooted in primitive jungle environments, known for their domineering tendencies and crude attire. Observing the small amphibious creature before him, he senses the surge of necrotic energy emanating from its form, mirroring that of the slender figure in the distance. The wild croaking of the Grung ceases abruptly as it braces itself, shield raised and hand axe at the ready. Noroxis notices a subtle disturbance in the ground surrounding the Grung, a writhing motion that seems to hinder the progress of the approaching figure. Recognizing the threat posed by the undead creature, now identified as a wight, the party springs into action. Ziggurat, the bronze arcane ranger, notches an arrow with practiced precision, his keen eyes scanning the battlefield as he steps forward. Calling out to the Grung yields only unintelligible croaks, while the slender figure responds with cryptic repetition. The ranger's sharp senses discern the true nature of their foe, an adversary capable of draining their strength with each strike. Noroxis, wielding his halberd, positions himself strategically to provide a melee flank for the Grung. Meanwhile, Ziggurat seeks cover amidst the debris of the ransacked cart, his bow poised. As the tense standoff erupts into action, Noroxis and Ziggurat spring into motion, their coordinated assault aimed at halting the relentless advance of the wight. With a swift motion, Noroxis hurls his pack-bound halberd towards their undead foe, the weapon cutting through the air. Simultaneously, Ziggurat unleashes an arrow from his concealed position, the projectile streaking towards the wight with deadly accuracy. However, to their dismay, both attacks seem to barely faze the undead creature, the halberd landing harmlessly in front of it, while the arrow merely glances off it. Undeterred, the wight presses on, its relentless march bringing it ever closer to the armored grunge. With a calculated fury, it unleashes a flurry of strikes upon the amphibious warrior, each blow raining down with bone-chilling force. Yet, to the surprise of all, the Grung's shield holds firm against the onslaught, deflecting the wight's attacks. As the wight attempts to drain the strength from its intended victim, A surge of resistance emanates from the grung, its aura seemingly bolstering its defenses against the undead assailant. With a surge of determination, Neuroxus harnesses the power of his class abilities, reclaiming his halberd with unwavering resolve. Seizing the opportunity to strike, he delivers a powerful overhead blow towards the wight, its undead form barely evading the deadly arc of his weapon. Undeterred, Neuroxus presses on, his next attack a calculated plunge with the pike of his halberd, the weapon finding its mark with unerring accuracy. With a mighty heave, he then uses his strength to forcefully move the wight back, creating an opening in the enemy's defenses and freeing the grung from its assault. Sensing an opportunity, Ziggurat capitalizes on the distraction, his arrow finding its mark with deadly accuracy, sinking deep into the wight's gaunt flesh. As the grung regroups, equipping another hand axe and stepping back, the wight finds itself held at bay, its attempts to break free from Neuroxus's proving futile. With the passing moment, it wanes, the wounds inflicted by the party taking their toll as dark ichor begins to seep from its wounds. The bronze archer releases another arrow, the shaft finding its mark with unerring accuracy, piercing the wight's cheekbone and eliciting a guttural screech from the undead. The frogman hurls another hand axe towards the foe, the blade embedding itself deeply into the wight's center mass. The creature's cries of agony are abruptly silenced by the green fighter's assault, his pact-bound weapon plunging once more into the wight's neck, dealing a fatal blow. As the wight collapses in a lifeless slump, Neuroxus dislodges his weapon from the fallen foe, the dissipating tendrils of necrotic energy clinging faintly to the air. A chill creeps down his spine as he senses a whisper of insight from his patron, a word echoed in the depths of his mind. Draco. Lich. Meanwhile, the frogman, his demeanor stoic and unfazed by the carnage around him, approaches the lifeless form of the slender figure. With a somber croak, he gathers his hand axes from the ground, his movements methodical. Amidst the aftermath of battle, Ziggurat sifts through the debris strewn about the battlefield, his senses sharp and alert. Discovering a potion amidst the wreckage, he is momentarily distracted by the presence of a strange donkey, its attempts at charm falling upon deaf ears as the ranger remains focused on his task. Neuroxus shoulders his weapon and strides closer to the bridge, the weight of their recent encounter heavy upon his shoulders. As the party notices the distant stare of the grunge, they make an attempt to communicate with him, seeking to unravel the mysteries that shroud their surroundings. The ranger, breaking the silence, questions the grung's ability to speak, demanding an explanation for the harrowing encounter they just faced. For a brief moment, the frogman's attention snaps back to the present, but he responds only with a croak before hopping down the bridge, his movements decisive yet enigmatic. Meanwhile, the fighter sets out across the bridge, his keen eyes scanning the debris-strewn path for any clues that might shed light on their situation. Amidst the fallen merchant and the unfortunate guards littering the bridge, he discovers a note clutched in the merchant's waistcord. A desperate plea for aid directed towards a military shrine in need of tincture. His gaze then falls upon a hand-drawn note, a mocking depiction of the guards juxtaposed with a tender rendering of a donkey, its eyes seeming to follow him with an unsettling intensity. Ziggurat, intrigued by the lone survivor of the caravan, attempts to interact with the donkey, its braying echoing through the air as it follows him to the foot of the bridge. Sensing an otherworldly connection to this isolated realm, the ranger finds himself momentarily lost in contemplation, only to be brought back to reality by the persistent nudging of the donkey, seeking his attention. As Neuroxus continues his advance down the bridge, his gaze catches the ranger's distracted state, prompting him to call out for reassurance. With a shrug of his shield, the frogman readies a javelin and moves to stand beneath Neuroxus. As the ranger's gaze shifts from the donkey to the fighter's call, he notices a movement beyond the bridge. A corpse, once lifeless, begins to stir, prompting swift action from the grung. With a thrust of his weapon, the amphibious warrior pins the undead creature in place, while Ziggurat's arrow finds its mark, sinking into the opposite shoulder of the rising foe. Neuroxus wastes no time, his halberd flashing with deadly precision as he cleaves through the zombie's form, sending its severed halves tumbling down the cliff face to an impossible distance below, where the echoing thuds of its descent are met by the splash of impact. With the immediate threat neutralized, the frogman sets to work, pushing the bodies of the fallen caravan off the bridge and into the ravine below. Meanwhile, the fighter and ranger cast their gaze past the bridge, where a peculiar building stands, a worn facade, boarded up and seemingly abandoned. It protrudes from the base of an impossibly tall mountain, its platform perched 30 feet above the ground. As the fighter moves closer to inspect the boarded-up entrance, he notices a banner adorned with the insignia of a sigil circle and cephalopod, hinting at the building's mysterious purpose. Sensing an opportunity for answers, the ranger once again attempts to converse with the frogman, questioning his actions and motives. In response, the frogman expresses his desire to prevent the corpses from rising again, his attention briefly diverted as he gazes down the path ahead. Despite the ranger's inquiries, the frogman's focus wanes once more, his thoughts drifting elsewhere as he moves forward, his companions following suit. The party gathers at the entrance of the boarded-up stone building. The green fighter moves the rubble aside, revealing the entrance to the strange stone building. Before stepping inside, he takes a moment to survey the surreal landscape, his gaze shifting between the towering peaks of the mountains and the unfathomable depths of the ravine below, both seeming to stretch on infinitely. The ranger, ever attuned to the uncanny essence of their surroundings, senses the peculiar sense of wholeness that permeates the air, an eerie sensation that leaves him on edge as they prepare to enter. With a shared sense of trepidation, the party ventures into the dimly lit interior of the building. The light filters weakly through the entrance, casting long shadows that dance along the stone walls. The air is heavy with the scent of dampness, the atmosphere dense and fogged with mystery. As they step further into the chamber, their eyes are drawn to a shrine at the center of the room, its ethereal glow casting an otherworldly luminescence that illuminates their path. To the left of the shrine, a collection of the caravan's supplies rests in a barrel, while beyond that lies a scattered assortment of notes, orders, and debris strewn across the floor. On the back wall, bookshelves stand shrouded in a thicket of vegetation, hinting at the passage of time and neglect within these forgotten halls. Closer to the entrance on the right, a supply closet sits. Neuroxus steps forward, his focus honed on the shrine before him, drawn by a sense of reverence and curiosity. As he approaches, he takes in the details of the sacred space with a keen eye. To the left and right of the shrine, he notices two copper bowls, weathered by age and oxidation. His gaze lingers on the contents within each vessel, noting the significance of their presence in this hallowed place. In the bowl to the left, he observes the remnants of slightly coagulated blood, a stark reminder of rituals long past and the offerings made in reverence to whatever deity this shrine once honored. On the opposite side, the bowl contains partial melted ice, its presence a curious juxtaposition to the blood-stained counterpart. Neuroxus ponders the significance of this offering, its meaning shrouded in the mysteries of this forgotten shrine. With a sense of solemnity, Neuroxus contemplates the significance of these ancient relics, his mind ablaze with questions as he seeks into the depths of the shrine's altar with his dark vision. He discerns the shape of an eagle, its form rendered in exquisite detail upon the surface of a large, round, dark circular plate. The air around the altar seems to hum faintly with a familiar arcane resonance, adding to the eerie ambiance of the sacred space. However, as Neuroxus fixates his gaze upon the idol, a peculiar sensation washes over him. He feels a subtle shift in the air, as if his shadow were moving or flickering in response to the presence of the ancient artifact before him. The sensation is uncanny as he grapples with the energies that permeate the shrine. Ziggurat seizes the opportunity to engage him in conversation, noting with surprise, "Oh, so you speak common. I heard you out there. Who are you?" The Grung's smooth amphibious features light up with a newfound animation as he responds. "Ah, who am I? I am Sarcophagus, of the Queen's Court, of course. Gus for short. Well done out there, by the way." With a webbed frog palm extended, he offers a gesture of camaraderie, prompting Ziggurat to introduce himself in kind. However, as they clasp hands, Ziggurat notices a faint fizzing and steam emanating from the Grung's gloves, a telltale sign of his poisonous skin. With a sheepish apology, Sarcophagus explains his condition before reflecting on their current predicament. The Grung's response is a croak, followed by a thoughtful observation of their surroundings. Meanwhile, Neuroxus's keen eye catches the glint of a potion bottle to the left, near the barrel and debris. With the conversation tapering off, Ziggurat turns his attention to the supply closet to the right. As he opens it, unexpectedly, a shovel tumbles out, bonking him on the head. With a resigned sigh, he shakes off the minor discomfort and peers deeper into the storage space. Among the assortment of janitorial supplies and common items, his gaze is drawn to a leather shoulder bag tucked away in the further left corner, seemingly untouched by the passage of time. Curiosity piqued, Ziggurat carefully examines the contents of the bag. Within, he discovers a collection of arcane focuses, a tantalizing array of tools used by clerics and wizards to channel their magic. Among the items lies a scroll containing the shocking grasp cantrip. He prepares to share his findings with the rest of the party. As Neuroxus gathers a few potions, the unsettling sensation of his shadow flickering pulls his attention towards the shrine. Pausing for a moment to contemplate this strange occurrence, he then resumes his investigation of the debris strewn about the shrine. Among the scattered remnants, Neuroxus discovers a scrawled note, its contents less weathered and stale than the surroundings. Despite being blood-stained and torn, he manages to discern fragments of text, including phrases like "need healing" and "we didn't bring the wizard." The rest of the note is illegible, obscured by dried blood. As his gaze shifts to the spilled barrel, which appears fresh compared to the rest of the debris, Gus, the grung, has a moment of insight. Croaking softly, he echoes the keys of the note, adding a layer of depth to the mystery surrounding their current predicament. Meanwhile, Ziggurat speaks plainly about his discovery of the leather pouch containing various arcane focuses and a scroll with a shocking grasp cantrip. As Neuroxus shares the contents of the bloodied note, his attention is once again drawn to the shrine by the unsettling movement of shadows. This time, they gesture towards the copper bowls and then towards the bronze dragonborn, before a flick against the potion bottle on his waist cord serves as a final, eerie reminder of the forces at play within the shrine. As Gus moves towards Neuroxus, offering a gesture of camaraderie, the green fighter only stares, his expression unreadable. The grung's expression shifts unexpectedly as he lowers his hand, a hint of confusion flickering across his features. Undeterred, Neuroxus begins to explain his theory that they need Ziggurat's blood to activate one of the bowls. Ziggurat hesitates briefly before moving to the center of the shrine, his resolve evident despite his apprehension. The frog's eyes light up slightly as he croaks about using magic on the other bowl, suggesting the importance of a paladin's oath and the symbolism of giving blood in service for magic. With determination, Ziggurat slices his palm and drips a small amount of blood into the bowl on the left. As he begins to cast from the scroll and reaches for the other bowl, Neuroxus pours a potion onto the fresh blood, adding to the mixture. Ethereal energy begins to form around the bowl in front of Neuroxus, crackling with arcane power. As the shocking grasp spell is cast onto the bowl on the left, it splinters, and the energy begins to build around it as well. The ambient occlusion gathers under both bowls, causing the 30-foot by 40-foot room to shudder as the vegetation on the far wall begins to shift. As the vegetation clears from above and in front of them, the party is met with a scene of eerie grandeur. The remainder of the building appears to be seamlessly fused or perhaps even consumed by the surrounding mountain, its raw, dense stone jutting into what was once a covered wall. The atmosphere is thick with an ancient, almost palpable energy, lending an air of foreboding to the surroundings. Amidst the remnants of the shrine's interior, the bookshelves stand as silent sentinels against the stone wall, their contents obscured by the shifting shadows cast by the flickering light. The wooden double doors, positioned at the center of the shelves, exude an aura of mystery, beckoning the party forward with a silent invitation. As Neuroxus steps through the door in the stone-faced wall, he finds himself in a dimly lit chamber, the darkness thick and oppressive. Utilizing his dark vision, he spots a glint of red from a bottle off to the left and moves towards it, his curiosity piqued by the mysterious object. Meanwhile, the ranger, having gathered the donkey from outside, acknowledges the grung before passing through the doorway. As he navigates the darkness, he ascends a raised platform, his senses alert to the unfamiliar surroundings. As he approaches the far end of the platform, his eyes catch sight of a bioluminescent mushroom, casting a faint glow across the chamber. In the dim light, he locks eyes with a figure shrouded in shadows, a dark elf. An inexplicable sense of unease washes over him, but he resists the urge to halt, his gaze fixed on the mysterious figure before him. Disarming himself as a gesture of peace, the ranger observes as the dark elf reveals a feminine figure and gestures towards something concealed behind a dark sheet. Two more figures emerge from the shadows, a hooded drow, armed with a crossbow, and a myconid clutching a handful of glowing fungi. Ziggurat lowers his weapon to the stone floor of the platform, a sense of caution mingling with his curiosity. As the feminine drow prepares a weave of purple energy in her left hand, gestures to Ziggurat and mutters something in Undercommon, he follows her lead, albeit unsure of her intentions. She directs him towards the canopy-covered area, and he moves towards it cautiously, his senses alert for any signs of danger. As Ziggurat passes under the sheet, the drow gestures for the others to relax, assuring them of his peaceful intentions. She follows him, deftly picking up his bow from the ground as she positions herself outside the concealed area, keeping a watchful eye on the proceedings. Meanwhile, the Dragonborn remains passive, taking a seat at a table in the center of the room. He observes his surroundings, noting the sounds of bubbling potions and the scent of alchemical ingredients in the air. The Myconid unclutches his hand, releasing a handful of glowing fungi into a dish at the center of the table, before retreating to the back corner of the room near a cauldron. Surveying the room, Ziggurat takes note of the alchemy supplies and mushroom growth on the left side, while on the right he sees a forge fire and various tools for crafting and processing materials. Beyond that lies a channel that leads deeper into the darkness. As Neuroxus gathers another potion from a crate, he notices Ziggurat moving up onto the platform. However, his attention is quickly drawn to the unexpected sight of Ziggurat freezing, dropping his weapon, and walking into the darkness beyond. Curiosity piqued, Neuroxus follows alongside the Grung and the donkey as they pass through the doorway in the stone wall and ascend the platform. However, halfway down the platform, an inexplicable sensation washes over him, causing him to lose the will to move his feet as he locks eyes with the feminine drow. Despite his own hesitation, Neuroxus watches as the Grung and the donkey seem unaffected by the drow's presence, continuing down the platform past her and disappearing into the canopy just beyond the edge of his vision. As Neuroxus follows suit and places his weapon onto the ground at the drow's gesture, she motions towards the canopy. From the shadows to his left, a hooded figure swiftly approaches, deftly grabbing his weapon before retreating back into the darkness to focus on a spell. Moments later, a failed attempt at acrobatics echoes from the darkness, followed by the unmistakable sound of his halberd tumbling down into the abyss below. However, to his surprise, the weapon rematerializes in his hands, leaving him momentarily stunned. With a shrug, he shoulders his weapon once more, keeping his palms forward in a gesture of neutrality despite the language barrier. Sensing the tension in the air, the feminine drow lets out a sigh and exchanges signs with the returning drow, mocking his failed attempt. She then begins to weave a purple hue of cleric magic, returning a sign of neutrality to Neuroxus, and gesturing for him to follow her inside. As he steps forward, he notices the Grung and the donkey disappearing deeper into the canopy, their forms gradually fading from view. As Neuroxus is motioned to sit at the table, he notices Ziggurat observing a Myconid across the room. Taking his seat, he watches intently as the fungal creature moves about the supplies and fungi in the corner of the room, its movements resembling a strange dance. The Myconid begins mixing ingredients in a cauldron, its motions rhythmic and deliberate. After some time, it slaps the top of its cap, releasing spores into the mix, adding an otherworldly essence to the bubbling concoction. As the Myconid continues its work, both drow divert their attention away from the party, their gaze fixed on something in the distance, partially obscured by the sheeted canopy. Neuroxus can't help but feel a sense of unease as he observes the scene unfolding before him. As the Myconid finishes its work, pouring the contents of the cauldron into a large bottle that now emanates a pinkish hue, it places the bottle in the center of the table. Alongside it, the glowing bibberbang, a volatile fungus from the Underdark, is carefully positioned in the far corner. With a deft hand, the Myconid sets 2 glasses, one for each Dragonborn, and fills them with the concoction. Ziggurat wastes no time in pouring the drink down his throat, while Neuroxus observes the brew, recognizing it as a substance used by the creatures for their rampant spores, granting a shared telepathic ability. Curiosity piqued, Neuroxus begins to drink the brew, savoring the warm sensation that spreads through him. As they imbibe the elixir, the Myconid pulls a bulbous bottle from its bandolier and breaks it above the table. Instantly, both Dragonborn feel the effects of haste and the rampant spores coursing through their veins, heightening their senses and quickening their movements. Amidst the rush of energy, a question fills the back of their minds, echoing with a sense of urgency and mystery. Do you know? The query hangs in the air. As the effects of the potion and spores take hold, the bronze Dragonborn's gaze fixates on the distance beyond the half-sheet canopy, his brow furrowing with concentration. Sensing his unease, the feminine drow's ears perk up, and she turns to face him at the table, the glint of her loth-sworn pendant catching the dim light of the forge fire. Her keen eyes observe the Bronze Ranger as his quivering hand reaches into his waist pouch, withdrawing a pendant. Reacting swiftly, she verbalizes a battle command and casts a bless spell over the camp, her focus shifting to the Ranger as she begins to pray fervently over him, a protective aura enveloping his form. Witnessing this, Neuroxus feels a surge of arcane energy within him, and he begins to hear a low rumble, growling, and clashes emanating from the darkness of the deep. As Zig reopens his eyes, he finds himself enveloped in a narrow tunnel, the walls of solid rock closing in around him. Despite the confining space, his ranger senses still fill him with the same feeling of centeredness, anchoring him amidst the mass of mountain. The tunnel stretches out before him, its width spanning 10 feet, and its length disappearing into the darkness beyond his vision. Peering into the distance, he hears the low growl of creatures echoing through the tunnel, a foreboding sound that sends a shiver down his spine. Maintaining a low profile, Zig continues to observe his surroundings with a watchful eye. Suddenly, from the depths of the darkness, 4 figures emerge. Among them is a slim skeleton, its bones rattling with each step, accompanied by 3 sodden risen dead, their forms mottled and decayed. With a steady hand on his bow, Zig prepares himself,